To the Grand Rapids Community College Board of Trust meeting Monday, November 16, 2020. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, trustees are joining this meeting virtually from either their homes or their offices in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Wondering if you, Dr. Pink, or any trustees have any guests they would like to introduce to us at this time.
I do not, Chairperson Cucci.
Anyone? Seeing none, then our first item on our agenda is to approve the agenda for tonight's meeting. Trustees, be reminded that this is the time to move any item from the consent agenda for special consideration if you are so inclined to want to do that. Are there any suggested changes to the agenda that's in front of us? Hearing none, a motion please to accept the agenda as presented.
So moved.
Thank you. Is there support for that?
Support.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, that same sign. We will now move to public comment. For those in our virtual audience, this is your opportunity to make comment on any matter that is on today's agenda. If you are inclined to do that, please use your chat function on your screen. Please identify yourself along with your question or your comment. And given the lag in this, we will proceed with our agenda. However, if you do comment, we will stop where we are in our agenda to listen to that comment when it comes in. That moves us to special order of business. We do have a property tax resolution that we need to approve this afternoon. I'm going to invite Lisa Fredberger to the podium to introduce that resolution at this time.
Thank you and good afternoon. Before you is a property tax resolution. This resolution is part of the process required by both the Community College Act and the School Code of 1976. This resolution authorizes us to levy 100% of our property taxes in the summer levy versus splitting that collection between summer and winter. The resolution regarding property taxes that you approved last spring actually established our millage rate, which as a reminder is 1.7472. Again, this resolution simply allows for the full 100% collection of that millage rate in the summer, specifically this year, the summer of 2021. Is this something you approve annually or you consider and approve annually? Would be happy to answer any questions that anyone might have.
Any questions for Lisa? Hearing none, I'll accept a motion to approve the property tax resolution as presented.
So moved.
Is there support for that?
Support.
Thank you. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Oppose, that same sign. That motion carries. We'll now move on to monitoring reports. We are privileged to receive a report from Dr. Afeni McNeely Cobham on equity. Her presentation is a video presentation, but she is in our audience to respond to our questions. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Dr. MC, and you can take it from here.
Chairman Cucci, members of the Board of Trustees, President Pink and Mrs. McCord Anderson, thank you so much for having us. Joining me on this call is Sandy Gregory, who serves as the co-leader for CAP 3.3, and Sophia Brewer, who's the co-leader for CAP 3.2. Collectively, as you noted, we have a video presentation and we'll answer questions on the other side. Thanks so much.
The University of Washington became the nation's first large college to close its classrooms, saying it will cancel in-person classes and have students take classes and exams remotely instead.
At Stanford and Harvard, they're canceling classes or they're going to online learning, not just for a couple of weeks, but for the rest of the year.
We look at how the pandemic is changing higher education. With remote learning, cash-strapped students are wondering if they're getting the education that they paid for.
What does it mean to be relevant and responsive? I remember reading that statement in pink ink and reflecting on how my role and work at GRCC would align with that sentiment. When the pandemic hit West Michigan, and GRCC specifically, I realized that being relevant and responsive wasn't merely a statement, it was a charge. A charge to be attentive, to have empathy, to serve above and beyond myself, to act with a sense of urgency and justice, to have courage, and to boldly think outside of the box. The college action projects under the equity pillar and the people who lead them exemplify these characteristics and much more.
What does it mean to be relevant and responsive? In order to be relevant and responsive, we must listen to our students' stories. We need to remove the blinders of our own lived experiences from the equation. This can be uncomfortable, and it takes practice. But in doing so, we can identify and understand the barriers that are holding our students back from succeeding at GRCC. Once we do that, we have to connect them with all the resources available. That can be emergency financial assistance, housing resources, our food pantry, our counseling, advising, tutoring, and other services, as well as community resources. In March, when the campus moved to remote learning, we learned that many of our students did not have technology resources that one would need to attend and do classwork from home. We launched the Laptop Loaner Program in partnership with the Division of Information Technology. This fall, 861 students indicated a need for technology support. In response, other administrative areas like the library and ODEI joined in the effort to distribute laptops and Wi-Fi hotspots.
What does it mean to be relevant and responsive? Offering students a smile, a listening ear, or simply asking them how they're doing can open the door, allowing us to make connections, remove barriers. Once we do that, that sets up a perfect opportunity to connect students to resources that often impact their retention. It often only takes a small step on our part to build trust. In the blink of an eye, the GRCC Food Pantry went from being a resource that students used as needed to a necessity that determined whether or not our students and their families had a source of nourishment. As a result, the pantry has been enhanced with additional shelving and refrigeration. We also increased the inventory with personal care items, resources for babies and infants, and pet food. The volume of students served required that we overhaul the distribution system and secure funding through grants and support from Student Alliance. These efforts have allowed us to facilitate the pantry Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. The donations and several grants helped us meet the increased demand, but current reserves are low and may present a challenge for providing support to students next winter.
Requests for emergency funding went up significantly. When the college moved to online instruction, we changed the emergency fund application. The process was simplified and moved to an online form. Students who submit a form are connected to our Get Help page and the Student Food Pantry. The Get Help page directs students to information about other resources like housing, childcare, and mental health. The Emergency Fund and Get Help page are particularly important for students not eligible to receive CARES Act funds. Data from the Hope Center study revealed stark racial and ethnic disparities that, if not remedied, will further drive inequities in college attainment.
What does it mean to be relevant and responsive? It's often said that some of the best lessons are learned in the worst of times. According to our survey results here at GRCC, we were relevant and responsive during the pandemic and social unrest, so we have many reasons to celebrate. However, we learned some very important lessons. The pandemic's impact on GRCC's community was minimized by effective leadership, a focus on student success, and care for employees. However, as we aim to understand and tackle remote learning as a way of life for some, we need to invest and focus on equity in online education. I co-facilitate CAP 3.2 with Mansfield Matheson, who is the Director of Purchasing. Prior to the pandemic, we hosted the second cohort of Intergroup Dialogue. We also led an offshoot of the IGD model with students titled Courageous Conversations. None of us had the hindsight that what we learned would need to be immediately applied to our work and daily lives. The killing of George Floyd made our discussions about the factors perpetuating systemic racism sobering. The current circumstances have also left CAP 3.2 reflective of our goals moving forward. For example, the impact of the pandemic revealed that campus climate is more than a physical space. We recognize that a sense of belonging is both physical and conscious. Therefore, the charge to build an inclusive campus for all will involve identifying resources that cultivate equity-centered practices in a remote environment.
As I concluded that speech in 1992, I realized I was reaching a turning point. I was beginning to see how deeply and pervasively racism is embedded in our history, our culture, and our individual beliefs and values. This awareness brought a more profound realization, that of the racism in my own heart and my urges to suppress or deny it. My qualifications on the subject of race is in what I've read and what I've discussed with numerous people of color and in self-examination. From all of this, I can only conclude that racism as we have known it
in the past and as it exists today is illogical, irrational, and totally indefensible.
Amen.
Transitioning through the new normal was tough, but the ODI team didn't miss a beat. Over 100 GRCC stakeholders attended the town hall on 2 pandemics. Student Alliance and the Office of Student Life enthusiastically agreed to partner on their first Real Talk forum. 56 members of the faculty and staff signed up for the Read to Act Collective in partnership with the Center for Teaching Excellence. And we responded to rapid-fire requests to serve as panelists, guest speakers, training consultants, provided resources, and stayed the course with carrying out signature events. Certainly, it feels good to have our work recognized through accolades and awards, but we do this work to honor the legacy of Bob Woodrick.
As we work to build a culture of inclusive excellence within and beyond our physical campus, we'll need your support in ideological and practical ways.
We cannot sustain this work exclusively as a CAP team. We welcome recommendations as to how the college can expand critical services to all our students.
There are times when work related to inclusion and equity can't be validated exclusively through data.
Much of this work is proven effective through the moral imperative of being relevant and responsive.
Therefore, please continue to recommend partnerships that will establish and sustain social justice practices at GRCC.
Wow. That was so well done. Thank you. Now we're going to opportunity for comments or questions. And while you're looking for your unmute buttons, my first impressions, Dr. MC and your team, was that you put an umbrella of grace around this entire institution in your work. And it just didn't feel It didn't feel like a traditional college, if you will. It felt like a community who cared deeply about those who enroll in their learning journey, and very impressive, very impressive. Let's have opportunity for comments or questions, or let's just turn it over to you. Go ahead, Kathleen.
I have a question about equity, inclusion, a sense of belonging, culture of inclusiveness, and how much, in addition to these two caps, those goals are integrated into operations throughout the institution.
Good question.
For example, focus on equity in online education. Is that something that Mr. Knapp also integrates? Is it campus-wide?
Thank you, Trustee Brunsberg. I'm going to ask also that my colleagues Sandy Gregory and Sophia Brewer unmute and show yourselves on camera so we can answer questions as we need to, but I'll start. We are currently in the process of working across campus units with the Center for Teaching Excellence, our pro deans, as we call them, or academic deans, particularly our Dean of Instruction, Dr. Sheila Jones, with doing better or meeting the objective around equity in online learning. If you will, we're flying without parachutes. This was different for a lot of us. And so I've been blessed to have colleagues come around the table when I send them a meeting request and talk about what we can do to do better. I see greater things on the horizon for winter semester, but as it pertains to this semester, a lot of people have taken part in training, conversations, or putting together a number of resources to help our faculty and staff alike really come around this idea of equity in the remote environment. Sophia, do you want to add to that?
Yes, I recently worked on a checklist, or when we were looking into OER, which is online educational resources, we ran across a checklist that faculty can actually go through to check and see if their online programs are equitable. So we do have some resources available on our websites for faculty to use as a way to monitor and make sure that they are checking off certain boxes, make sure that they're using different modalities and those kind of things in order to be more equitable.
I would also say, and to that question, Trustee Brunsma, Dr. MC sometimes is a little shy about her any tooting of her horn. So let me do a little bit of that. What has been nice is her expertise being made available to our faculty units, and that also toots the horn of many of our faculty units and departments that have made special times to get with her and to have some of the sessions around equity from a departmental standpoint. How do we do that with our students and with each other? She's having some of those, that outreach going on in partnership with, as she mentioned, with our Center for Teaching Excellence. I think it's a very sensible match that the CTE be in partnership with our Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. And that, I think, is helpful. And then the other thing I'll say, you saw the good work that Sophia and Mansfield do around some of our intergroup dialogue. Those groups typically have cross-sectionality to them from across campus. So it's not just academics, it comes from across campus that those participants, and I think that effort on its own has been really interestingly impactful to those individuals from what I've been able to hear.
Thank you.
Other comments or questions?
Yes. I was recently at a conference for young professionals of color, and for the first time I heard that stat about the levels of anxiety among young people, and you reinforced it saying that anxiety levels can be at 48, I think you said it at 48%. Mm-hmm. So as a college, what additional resources or what resources are we providing to help these young individuals deal with this? And second part of that is that anxiety level in response to COVID, or is that anxiety level just a sign of the times, regardless of COVID, is typically that high?
That's a great question. I'll start first and then my colleagues can chime in. We believe from that data came from studies that were done particularly on our GRCC students as a part of a national study. They parsed out data specific to us. Certainly this pandemic and the social issues in tandem have escalated anxiety for our students. The idea of not knowing what's next, right? How do I take my classes? How do I pay for my classes? Where am I living? How do I sustain myself? Questions that students probably had the answer to before, some 8 months ago, now came with uncertainty. So that certainly escalates anxiety. To the question about how we're responding, hats off again to our colleagues. And I always get the office name wrong, so y'all forgive me, you're gonna get mad at me again. I believe it's Counseling and Career Services Office. If I got it wrong, somebody correct me. But the work that they do through their telehealth counseling and through the Get Help page, we also recommend external resources that our students can go to for 24-hour mental health support, issues around, again, food and housing and that sort of thing. So we do what we can about getting information about external resources, but also what we have available here. Sandy, did you want to add?
Yeah, I think you touched on the mental health problem that we're addressing with our telehealth counseling. Under Student Success and Retention, which is the office that I work in under Dr. Eric Mullen, he has also done some outreach to our current students. We've done text campaigns, just checking in with them. How are you doing? What do you need help with? And our most recent one, we've had a lot of pretty deep comments from our students. They are struggling. And so the team that we've put together to answer those texts have been connecting those students with the appropriate resources here on campus.
The other thing I'll add, most recently, I forgot about it, but Chairman Cucci and Trustee Brunsma joined us. We've been having town hall discussions around the election. Not that we heard anything in particular, but we wanted to create virtual space for students, faculty, and staff to come and unpack how they might be feeling around that process. So we offered a total of 4 during the time period of before the election, during the election, and what might be post-election to create those opportunities. And they seem to go really well with people just being able to say, this is what's on my mind.
So you mentioned at the end of the report that trustees could show its support by supporting the expansion of services. What might that look like from your perspective?
So since we're near Christmas, yeah, if I'm doing a wish list, no, I'm kidding. President Pink was like, wait a minute. But I think it's the idea, and Sophia brought this up in the video, we've come to understand that equity, remote learning, and sort of the way that we operate now, I don't want to use cliche terms like our new normal, but that comes to mind that we will have to be innovative about how we go about doing college or creating the holistic student experience. And so as those ideas come up and surface, we just like the board support and around the idea that we are trying to be responsive to the way that we have to create support and learning environments. Anyone feel free to add?
Certainly under CAP 3.3 with addressing the students' basic needs and trying to create a one-stop shop where students and staff and faculty all know where to go. We definitely can use support in that. The way we've been addressing those needs currently has been multiple offices, multiple staff, and we're piecing it together. And so we need to streamline that. We need to have that an institutional process and a place where everybody knows this is where I can go to get help, whether that's our students or our staff or faculty.
I have one quick follow-up question. I'm sorry, Trustee Siegel. The CARES Act data, is that for our institution only or is that nationwide? The
That
slide.
was, sorry to interrupt you. That was our students, our data.
Cheryl, go ahead.
Yeah, Doctor, thank you. It was a powerful video and well done. When I hear systemic racism, I hear an insinuation of indictment of GRCC as being systemically racist, which reflects, from my point of view, on faculty. or the board and or administrators, can you be more specific about the systemic racism, i.e. GRCC, and how, if this applies to our institution, what are the benchmarks to lessen the systemic racism?
I'll start first, and then again, my other colleagues can chime in. Systemic racism isn't resigned to one location, which is why I think the word systemic is used. So I do appreciate you offering your context and scope when you hear that. When we talk about systemic racism, we're talking about larger, what happens in our society, both historically and how it impacts current issues, and that creates an opportunity in a space, if left unchecked or unaddressed, for people to sort of fall in line with things that become almost innate, like you don't even recognize it because it seems so very natural to the order of things. So it's not GRCC specific or our wonderful stakeholders, but there's people who can fall into that if they don't remain aware that my assumptions, my biases, the way that I view others, the way that I treat other people can fall into this sort of normative mindset and actions if I'm not reflective of whether or not I'm relying on things that have been very much a part of our society. So that would be my take on that, that if you hear that in the context of a presentation or a dialogue that's happening in the context of this video, I think it was mentioned that when George Floyd happened, that garnered more conversations in our community about just what is systemic racism and how does it play out in the criminal justice system, in education systems, right? And in larger systems where people who often, who refuse to be aware or be introspective of their own ideas can fall into that process. So that would be my response and my take on that. Sophia or Sandy? Or did I do a good job?
I think you did a good job.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. Other questions for the team at this point?
One thought that I had, and I want to frame it also by just thanking you for all the work. One thing that presentation did so well is show the breadth of work that goes into this, that sometimes I think equity work or, DE&I work can get kind of boiled down to a, we did this unconscious bias training or like these things. And so I appreciate showing the breadth of this work and how important and complex and intersectional it all is. And for your answer that you just gave around how the systems, from the beginning of time for us, this engagement is sort of baked in and cooked into all of our systems, and we need to be aware of that and think about that and question that and challenge that. So thank you for that. One question I had was around equity-centered. I pulled out that quote, equity-centered practices in a virtual environment. That was already asked about, but I think, as you all are working through that and faculty are working through that, and then you have K-12 system working through that and so many other organizations, how do we continue to learn and share that information out for, in open source ways for everyone who's kind of engaging. Even organizations are trying to think about how they move into those spaces, and they're not often historically educators or teachers, and trying to think about how they can do that. So that was something that stood out to me as those potential opportunities. The question I had was around, and there was some data around students who are engaging with having responsibilities to take care of family members and those types of things. I'm wondering if there's some tracking that's happening in terms of students who are parents, so student parents and their families, and ways in which they're engaging with, whether it be in any of these systems that exist, whether the pantry or mental health support or those types of things, and in how we might be sort of disaggregating the data and targeting some of this work for specific groups, those who have had to use the pantry, those who have children, et cetera.
right? So almost like a social work narrative. Sandy, I'll ask your help to chime in on this. I'm not sure how we go about tracking the students who are using our resources, but in terms of student parents, I think it'd be fairly easy for us to utilize our, I might get that name wrong again, forgive me, but our child care center that we have. In my office, we host a program called NIA. Many of our parents that are a part of that group were able to talk to anecdotally about how they are juggling. Some are well enough, and others have to step out this semester because it was too much to handle. But in terms of data, that's anecdotal, not empirical. So I think it's worth it if we don't have an ongoing study, and somebody correct me if we do, to be able to start to dig deeper into that constituency.
Yeah, I'd be happy to jump in on this. So CAP 3.3 is presenting to our strategic leadership team meeting this month. And what we've been looking at is how do we move forward? How do we institutionalize these things? One thing we've been doing is working with Dr. Mullen and his academic advising redesigned CAP program. And we are planning to use the EAB tool, to use that as a case management tool to allow us to track data. As I said, we've been piecing together a lot of this work among just a few staff members, and gathering that data, we haven't been able to do it. We all have other jobs that we have to do also. So we're doing the best we can, but we see that EAB tool is really allowing us to gather that data, to do the case management. We know we have the parents. Early on in the pandemic, we started hearing from our student parents who needed help with things like baby food and formula and wipes and diapers. And so we addressed that right away. We have a good stock of that. They can request that every week. But we see that need, and that's just another reason why we really need to institutionalize this work so that we can really address those students and be more proactive than reactive. At this point, we're being more reactive, but we want to be proactive.
Thanks, Sandy. Any other comments or questions? So then just to summarize, you mentioned Dr. Pink's relevance and responsiveness several times. And that doesn't happen without a heavy dose of empathy. And that was the theme, I think, that just ran through your entire report. And quite frankly, that's a theme that would work its way through any CAP report, whether we're talking, no matter what aspect of the college institution we're talking about. So hats off to you and your team for the work that you're doing, and we'll support you in any ways that we can. So on that note, we're going to move along in our agenda.
Thank you all.
Thanks again. And I'm going to invite Lisa again to come to the screen and update us with a financial report.
Thank you. And I will be brief. Hard to follow such a wonderful report. We provided a very in-depth finance update at your October meeting, so I won't go through that again. Of course, your monthly financial statements are in your packet. They begin on page 13, and I would be happy to answer any specific questions that you might have there. But just overall, we are still monitoring very closely. This is a very different year that we are working through. At this point in time, we are still very much on track with what we presented to you in October. Winter enrollment is our next variable, and while it's early, we are starting to watch that very closely. The next 2 or 3 weeks will be telling as we watch that enrollment come in. Right now, we are down a bit. However, it is very early in that enrollment cycle. So we will have more information for you on that later. That is, again, our largest unknown variable at this point in time. And then just a process reminder, as we're going into a couple of months where there are no formal board meetings, we will bring to you a formal budget amendment, what we call our mid-year amendment, for your consideration and approval in February. That is our typical timeline. Again, that will, at this point in time, pending winter enrollment, look very much like what we shared with you last month. And then we typically address tuition in March. So that would, pending any changes, be our normal process and pattern. and what we would anticipate bringing to you for your consideration formally at board meetings, February and March. And then we will be on to next year's budget, believe it or not, by March, April, with formal presentation in May. With that, unless there are specific questions on anything, I don't have anything else to share.
Thank you. Questions or comments for Lisa? Hearing none, we'll look forward to a couple of months from now when we'll hear from you again. So thanks so much. We're going to move on now to updates. We do have a couple of reports. I see Anaya Hakeem on my screen there. I'm going to invite you to unmute yourself and look forward to getting your report.
Hello, everyone, and thank you, Dr. MC. That was such a lovely video. I am touched, honestly, to know that students we're still relevant, even though it's kind of a contradiction because this is a college. But, it's nice to know that our struggles are being, recorded and being attended to and everything. So thank you so much for that. And thank you, everyone, for allowing me to attend. And in the past few months since my last report, our team and other student organizations have accomplished several things. We planned and hosted another Real Talk, which is on student involvement and trying to encourage students to be more involved during, online learning and altered learning and things of that nature. And our co-hosts actually, so for each Real Talk, we like to have someone there to kind of support our topic. So this time we decided to have our co-hosts be the clubs that usually attend our regular town halls. So that would be like Phi Theta Kappa, the National Society of Collegiate Scholars, Sekia Culinary Student Community, and the Chess Club. And it was heavy on dialogue this time, and it didn't feel so much like a Zoom meeting. So that was really fun. And then we met with Evan Macklin on ways to get more momentum in student involvement. He has had so much history in the student life office and things like that. So he was kind of just training us a little bit on how to use our role in ways to narrow towards actual student involvement. It's been a conversation we've been having, but the action behind that conversation is something that he was helping us hone in on. And we alluded to student relationships. So to find ways to build relationships more with students to kind of get some more loyalty and some more support from our students. Oftentimes in this position, you kind of get blurred between your student identity and then your other identity of being someone in like an organization like Student Alliance. So we met with him and he gave us fruitful knowledge. It was amazing. I really enjoyed it. And then Campus Activities Board will be tabling today to hand out free snacks and connect with students. And NSCS is also hosting a virtual campus visit with the University of Michigan this week, and recently hosted a leadership development workshop. And then the Sekia Culinary Student Community toured the student food pantry recently to see what food we're offering and to help with recipes. So their plan was to, when students pick up food from the food pantry, to offer them different recipes to try with the food they're provided with, which I think is a great idea. And that concludes our updates. We are scheduled to have another town hall December 3rd. And this one, we're thinking about changing the format, but we haven't even got to that yet. So I will keep you all updated, and that is the end of my report. So thank you for the opportunity to present, and I hope you all have a good day.
Thank you, Anaya. Any questions or comments for her at this point? Thanks again. It's always a pleasure to have you part of our meetings, and we look forward to seeing you at a future meeting. Thank you so much. We don't have a foundation report. I do have a couple of items on mine. I want to take this time to acknowledge that Cynthia Bristol, unless we have an emergency meeting, this is the last official meeting that she will be here with us. After serving 6 years on this board, Cynthia, that journey for you is coming to an end. I don't know that any of us on this board can match your enthusiasm and commitment to this college. You've served this community well. Your sensitivity to our students living on the margins will remain an inspiration to all of us who carry on this work. On behalf of the college community, we wish you God's peace, and we invite you to stay connected. You should have received by now at your home some tokens of appreciation from us. We want those tokens of appreciation to just trigger nothing but pleasant memories. And if not so pleasant memories at times, at least memories that you made a substantial contribution to this college. And we are so grateful for that. I don't know how to applaud virtually. I guess we all have little clap buttons on our screens. I'm not sure how we can do that, but did want to take advantage of this opportunity to just say thank you.
Thank you. May I make a few remarks at this time?
You may.
Okay, thank you. You know, as my term on the Board of Trustees is ending, I'm thankful for Brandy Lovelady Mitchell, Daniel Williams, and Brandon Sinclair to campaign for a seat at this table. And I happily welcome Brandon and Brandy. And my best to Brandon, he is a brilliant alumnus of the college. During my tenure at GRCC, there were numerous events affecting many moving parts of the college, and we successfully responded to those. Change requires energy, whether it's planned, immediate, or just in case for the benefit of your students. At the time of Dr. Ender's retirement and the hiring of Dr. Bill Pink, the Board of Trustees intentionally planned the course of transition, assuring our students strong academic programming. The pandemic through which we're still navigating necessitated overnight response from all departments in the college, changing from class instruction to online learning for students to complete their winter courses. A just-in-case change occurred a couple of winters ago due to the polar vortex. That found the Office of Student Life and Conduct prepared in advance to care for students who may need food and housing assistance in a crisis situation. And we heard this outstanding presentation today of how that office is expanding to meet additional needs for the students. So the college responds to change, whether it be academic or tangible means, whether forethought, planned, immediate, or just in case. So my thanks and appreciation to all employees for purposeful dedication to meeting the changes of our students. And I'm almost done, Dave. Grand Rapids Community College is a stellar community college within the National Community College community. And it's a pleasure to be a part of it. And I am so proud of GRCC. And in closing, I do have plans. My family is my top priority. I have several hobbies. We have some trips that are planned coming up as soon as we can travel. Teaching my piano students, one of whom now is a piano major at GRCC. But guess what? I'm going to be back. I would like to help out in the food pantry. So I just cannot leave GRCC. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Cynthia.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, here we go with one of these things here. So the baton is now being passed from one board member to the next. Did also want to take advantage of an opportunity to congratulate Daniel Williams and Brandy Lovelady Mitchell. Thank you so much for your willingness to serve. We look forward so much to having you sitting at this table. And we know we will benefit from your insights and your wisdom. So that concludes my report. I'm going to turn it over to you, Dr. Pink. Is there anything that you would like to present to us at this time?
Definitely. So thank you, Chairperson Cucci, members of the board. It's good to spend time with you and to update you on things going on with our college. And want to start out by just giving you update and actually taking the opportunity to even say to our community that are listening into this as many of you, as all of you know, last night our state health department did issue some specific orders in terms of next steps of fighting this horrible surge going on in our community around COVID-19. As you know, with that order, it did address colleges and universities, and just wanted to make sure and update you from a standpoint of our college. We are obviously adhering to those orders and making those plans as far as what Wednesday and forward for 3 weeks means to us. So as the order is allowing, we are pretty much going with what those allowances are. Our health-related programs in our health areas will continue to operate face-to-face to get those programs and those this semester done in a concise yet safe way, which we have been doing all this semester. There's allowance of law enforcement. Our police academy, the cohort has completed. And so anything that has to happen around our academy will happen, yet I think we're pretty much at a finished status there. We also, because of the allowances of the order, will do have plans for our fitness center here on campus to still operate. In the way that it's been doing so far, which is for faculty, staff, and students, as far as that, those visitors that are allowed right now under this pandemic, with appointments and all the things that have happened with distancing and wearing a mask in those spaces. We will continue to operate that. We still also have plans to continue to operate at a level, our child care center, the Phyllis Fratsky Early Childhood Development Center. We still have plans for that to function. It's been functioning at a reduced number of children in that space. We believe we'll be able to continue that as well. And our health-related programs that have oversight at the MTech and those operations as far as healthcare is concerned, we plan to be able to continue those as well. I must say that I'm just want to overemphasize how proud I am of this college because of what we've been able to do over these last 8-9 weeks, and even beyond that, these 7 to 8 months that we've been in this pandemic. This college has done phenomenal work in rising to the occasion of making this space as safe as possible. And we said back then, we knew that that there would be cases that would come to campus. We knew that from the very beginning. But our goal, and I think we have done a phenomenal job, was to try to make sure that if those cases did come to campus, that we'd be able to mitigate those. And I think we have done a great job of that. I say to this campus, I commend them. And any chance you have, trustees, please let them know that their hard work is appreciated, not only by me, but by this community, and the work that was put in place to make sure that our students are as safe as possible. And so we will, as I said, be adhering to those orders that have been made, but will also, again, to the point that we are allowed to do so, will in fact do so. I want to also, number 2, call out a celebration of our cross-country teams who returned to Grand Rapids this weekend from competing at the NJCAA National Tournament. In the midst of a pandemic, our cross-country team was still able to compete, and I'm proud to say that our women's cross-country team finished 4th in the country, and our men's cross-country team finished 9th in the country. To have our 2 cross-country teams finish in the top 10 in the nation is a great feather in their cap. The highest that our women have achieved in terms of finishing nationally. Our coaching staff, big kudos to them. Coach Scalia being named Coach of the Year as far as the conference and the region is concerned, and several 2 All-Americans on the teams. And so we're thrilled about that, and I give them huge congratulations to that. And I have sent that out and will continue. We'll take some time in the winter semester to do more in terms of honoring them with this board. And my final thing, and then I'll be happy to take any questions. 2 people I want to call out right now. in very specific ways. So this board meeting marks the last official board meeting that I believe Donna Crott would be a part of. Donna, our director of our institutional research and planning area, she has been a part of this college for some 27 years, both part of the college as well as her years go back to the GRPS days where she came over to the college from there. Donna is one of those people who has truly done phenomenal work and has been one of those individuals that I think our college folks across campus always can put a lot of trust in terms of her work. In her leadership of the strategic leadership team, as well as her leadership of the IRP area, I must say thank you to her and congratulations to her on being able to celebrate a retirement. And we're honored at the work that she has done. So wanted to call her out specifically, as many of you are familiar with her and her work. And then the other person I need to call out. So 5.5 years ago when I came to GRCC, if I look at this board right now, and I'm honored at the board that I serve for at this point, but there's only one of you that was a board member back then when I got here. And I got to tell you, Trustee Bristol, you mean a lot to me because you are one who was here in my beginning. You are one who has always been a source of encouragement. It's not out of the ordinary for me to get a text message from her saying, hey, it's okay, keep it up, you're doing a great job. And please know that that has never gone without notice. This institution will miss you, but please know that I will miss you in this role. I won't miss you all that much because you said you'd still be here. So you said it, so I'm gonna hold you to it. But please know, with you and Bob, all the good things that you've done for this institution, I am grateful, and you are a big part of my GRCC life. So thank you for your work, and thank you for what you mean to me and to my family. That's the end of my report.
Thank you, Dr. Pink.
Thank you.
Any questions for Dr. Pink at this point?
Yes, I've got one. Dr. Peak, in the materials that you sent out, there's a reference to America's Promise. I'm wondering if you or Julie could just give us some insight about what that program is and how it's impacting the school.
Trustee Brame, good question. In the materials, there is in the consent agenda an item that includes our work with our America's Promise grant that is specifically funds that are geared toward West Michigan Works. I can give you an update on that, but the best person to do that is I always let rock stars rock, and Julie Parks is one of those rock stars, our executive director of workforce training. So Julie, could you share with our board that piece of the consent agenda?
Thank you, Dr. Pink. Trustee Bram, that is a charge on there is for our nationally recognized partnership with West Michigan Works for the America's Promise grant, which has served over 1,600 individuals, $6 million. The grant pays for career coaches and business services representatives. The grant covers 7 counties, and so there are 4 counties that GRCC doesn't work directly in, and Michigan Works covers those counties for us. So it's really quite an example for the rest of the country, their relationship with this college, and for people from the college that serve on their board. Yeah.
That makes sense. Thank you very much.
I will tell you, Trustee Brame, I was on a meeting last week, actually 2 separate meetings, 2 totally different organizations, national organizations. One was Jobs of the Future, and it was so interesting that both of them called out Grand Rapids Community College and the work that we do with our Workforce Investment Board, West Michigan Works, as being one of those national models, because as I find out in my work with national workforce boards and those dynamics, we are not the most common in terms of a community college and a workforce board that has such a close and integral relationship. It's looked at as something of a model for other community colleges across the country. It's interesting to hear them call us out on that. And I will tell you, that work and that relationship is not just due to West Michigan Works having such a dynamic leader in Jacob Moss, but it's also due to our college having people like Julie Parks and her team that works so well with West Michigan Works. And so thank you for the question. It gives a great opportunity to share more of what that looks like.
Anyone else at this point? Thank you so much, Dr. Pink. We're going to move on and I'll accept the motion to approve the consent items that were in our agenda packet.
So moved.
Thank you. Is there support for that?
Support.
Thank you. Any other conversation or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. That motion carries. We have no items over $100,000, no purchase items over $100,000 that we need to approve. So we'll move right along. And that takes us to public comment. We're now at the time in our meeting for public comment on any matter that relates to college business. For any of you who would like to address the board, you may do so at this time by using your chat function on your screen. I remind you again that that's not the only way you can communicate with us. You can also email any or all of us. Our addresses are included under the board section of our website. So I'm going to just wait just a moment to make sure that I get that there's none coming in. While we're doing that, trustees, any comments that any of you would like to make before we adjourn?
I would, President Cucci, to be self-serving, wonderful things happen at Siegel Jewelers.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh. I think Cheryl just froze on the screen. The good news is we'll get to hear that comment again. She probably doesn't realize that she's frozen on the screen, though. That's the unfortunate part. Misty, if you're there, if you'd be willing to just reach out to her via text that
Yep,
she
I
has.
did.
Okay, great. We have no public comments at this time. So while we're waiting to reconnect with Cheryl, any other comments before we adjourn?
I'd like to make a comment, please.
Sure.
Chairperson. I want to direct my comments to Trustee Cynthia Bristol. I have truly enjoyed getting to know you and Bob over the past 4 years. You and I don't agree on every issue, but we agree on many issues. The importance of arts education, the importance of arts in our society, in our culture, the best first name for a daughter, we agree on that, and the importance of GRCC in our community. The board and I have benefited greatly from your experience as a former professor at the community college, but over and above anything else, you are such a valuable ally to this institution because your heart's focus is on the students this institution served. Every student that walks through our doors, every student that logs on online as of the past 8 months, those are always the center of your focus. And I'm reassured by that because that means, as you just said, that you're going to stay involved with this institution. And I am very, very grateful for that. Thank you for your friendship and thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kathleen. Anyone else? I did get a note from Cheryl that her computer suddenly stopped functioning, so she just invited us to proceed. So we will do that.
Give us the good news later then. To start off with good news, and then
Anyone else?
I will miss all of you. Thank you for your friendship. It was great working with you. But like I say, the students are my focus, and I really would like to serve them in a tangible way. And that's why I decided to help out in the food pantry. It will bring me great pleasure.
Absolutely. So on that pleasant note, we're going to adjourn unless somebody else has something.
Just real quick, I see Brandy's on the line. And just want to say congratulations to her.
Yeah.
Extra credit for sitting through a board meeting she didn't have to sit through. So
right.
And congratulations to both those guys and Daniel, especially, running a campaign during a pandemic. I remember walking on doors, walking down, knocking on doors. They couldn't do any of that stuff. Yet they put a campaign together that was successful. So congratulations. They wrote the book for doing it in a difficult time. So thank you, both you guys and Mr. St. Clair for running. So thank you guys all. And I look forward to working with each of you in the next several months. Congrats.
For sure. Thanks, Kenyatta. On that note, we will adjourn this meeting. Thank you very much. And we'll be back again. I think our next formal meeting isn't until September. So hopefully all of you can connect again. I think there is a holiday event that we will be at. Pardon me?
February.
Oh my goodness. February.
Boy,
All right.
September. Wow.
Did I say September?
Yes.
Oh my goodness. Oh yeah. Let's not leap to September. Let's try to get one in before that. All right. Before I lose complete control, I'm going to hit my leave meeting button and we'll take off. So, all right. Thanks a lot. See you guys.